Why do Jewish people, why are they considered rich and have like multiple connections?
What's up with the head?
Did the Jews kill Jesus?
Why is everybody just blindly on the Palestinian side?
My name is Rabbi Shoff. I'm an Orthodox Jewish rabbi and have been studying and teaching the Torah all of my adult life. And if there's something that you want to ask me, now is the time. What's your name? I'm Rabbi Shoff. We're just making a video. That's really what we're doing.
My name's Arthur.
Good to meet you, Jonathan. Where are you from?
Alright, I'm from Durham. I just wanted to ask, why do Jewish people, why are they considered rich and have like multiple connections to a lot of people?
It's such a smart question. Here's what I think the answer is. There may be many answers. For a lot of things in life, there could be multiple things at work, right? But I'll tell you one thing. Jewish people are tremendously focused on family and community. If two Jewish people are walking down the street and they see each other, they feel very connected. Part of it is that for thousands of years, Jews were the outsiders. So a lot of Jews will get their DNA. You know, people do 23andMe. You'll get 50% this, 30% that. A lot of Jews get 99% Ashkenazic Jewish, 100%. You couldn't marry somebody. If you were living in Spain, you couldn't marry someone from Spain. You had to marry Jews. And in France and in India, wherever you were. So Jews had a very strong sense of family and community. If I've got a business and I can give 20 people jobs, I'm going to give my family first, right? If they're good at it. And when Jewish people created strong sense of community and family, they'd come over from Europe, and immediately, if they were bright and intelligent and hardworking, they had jobs.
I have another question. I've noticed in a couple of movies make fun of Jews and, you know, certain jokes or something. I want to know why are they so involved in that, you know, like...
In the movie industry.
Yeah, films and stuff.
Yeah, it's a very common thing. Many of the people that founded Hollywood were Jewish. And you look at some of the names, you know, Goldwyn Mayer and Mira Matz, and all these are all Jewish people. So it's a very interesting thing that Jews were involved in the industry from the early days. They were involved in making movies. An interesting thing is that Jews are very, very involved, especially in comedy. Have you noticed that? A lot of the comedians are Jewish. One of the ways Jews have coped with really difficult stuff over the years is with humor. And it's a very big part of it. There's a verse in the Bible where the Jews are suffering and Moses takes them out and they're in the wilderness and they say, suddenly things are going wrong. And they turn to Moses and they say, there weren't enough graveyards in Egypt. You had to bring us here. So they were already joking about things back then. That's the first recorded joke, perhaps in world's history, because in the Bible. So isn't that something? In other words, I think that Jews got very involved in comedy and in humor and these kind of things. You know, some of the early people, Charlie Chaplin, you know, some of these other comedians. And I think it was a defense mechanism. You know, the Jews came to America and their wife and their children and everyone they knew was killed in front of them and they came to start over. And I think comedy and humor were like a big part of how the community dealt with things. And I think it translated to something in America.
Thank you. I had to ask you because I needed to ask
God
somebody.
bless you. You said your name was Jonathan?
Yeah.
It was good to meet you.
Thank you.
Someone made a comparison with the Israeli settlement as right? And like colonization in America.
Yeah.
And I want to know what is why is that comparison inappropriate?
I'd be happy to answer you.
Okay,
Do you want to talk for a minute?
No, I'll be back. Well, yeah, tell me right now. It's been in my mind, because you know, one concern is this issue of okay, you have Palestinian people that are living in that land.
Yeah.
And then you understand what happened, World War II, the Holocaust, all that.
Yeah, but what gives the Jews the right to just come in there? Maybe let me try to give you an example. Imagine you had Navajo Indians who were thrown off their land.
Yes.
And they moved to Europe.
Okay.
Imagine this. They moved to Europe. And after people try to kill out all the Navajo, the world says, you know what, we got to put them back in Navajo country. And they come back. Would you say they're colonizers?
No.
Okay. So I want to tell you,
they're going back
to where they were.
From.
Let me tell you a true story.
You clarify something.
I want to tell you a true story that no one disagrees with. Jewish people started out in the land of Israel. Jews comes from Judea. That's the name of that land.
Yeah, correct.
Now, what happened is people came in called the Romans, taken over the world, and exiled them and pulled them out. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Every single day, for 3 times a day, we pray. For the last couple thousand years, return us to Israel, return us to Jerusalem. We never stop. This synagogue is facing east when you go in, because Jerusalem's east. 3 times a day we faced east. We never forgot it for 1 minute. There were also Jews in the land, not so many. They were a minority because the Turks came in and there was colonization after, including the Palestinian people. They colonized it too. They're the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. They're from Saudi Arabia. The Jews were always there in small numbers and never gave up on it. And then the world said, we need a place for you, so we'll go back. Did you know that in Israel, Jews and Arabs live together? That if they make a two-state solution, they talk about this, make a two-state solution, the Arab state will be 0 Jews. Free of Jews like Nazi Germany dreamed. Judenrein. No Jews allowed. In Gaza, there were 0 Jews.
You don't support the two-state solution?
I do support it, but I want it to be 2 real states, which means either only Jews in this one, only Arabs in that one, which I don't agree with. I think we can live together. Or if you have an Arab state, why can't I live there? Why is it prohibited for a Jew to go to Saudi Arabia?
That's not cool.
Qatar, for the Olympics, they had to allow Jews only for this one thing, for the World Cup. Only Jews, they made a special change in the laws. A two-state solution is a lie because it would be 1 Arab state and 1 democratic state where anyone can come. There are Arabs in the Knesset and on the Supreme Court in Israel. So the answer is we came and made a democratic state. There was one rule that any Jew from anywhere in the world could come back since it's their homeland. It was colonized before by the British. There was never a Palestinian country with a flag or a coin. If you see a coin that says Palestine, it's a Jewish coin and it's got Hebrew letters on it.
But somehow they feel that that's also their sort of...
And they're welcome.
Right?
They are welcome. Do you understand? They're welcome. Just don't try to kill everyone you see. They have a basic belief that as long as a Jew is on the land, it is an insult to Allah and you got to kill him. And if you can kill a baby in a kindergarten, you're a hero.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So that's a big... How do you work with that? They are welcome. If you will just behave and not kill. Now listen, I'm not judging a little kid who's born and raised, and it could be there's a soldier who mistreated him, but to call it colonization would be like telling the Navajo guy who comes back to Navajo country,
I hear that.
You're a colonizer because the Americans were here. If we give it back to the Palestinians, the whole thing, then the next day we should get it because they're colonizers. Fine, give it to the Jews. Then we're colonizers, give it to them. If you're going back in history, we were there first. If you're saying whatever you conquer, it's yours like everyone else in the gosh darn world, then just like America belongs to the United States, Israel belongs to us. So pick a lane. Is it whoever was there first? We win based on archaeology, based on history. It's undeniable. That being said, you're welcome. There's Christian sites, there's Muslim sites, and there's Jewish sites. And if you just won't blow yourself into pizza toppings, you can cut.
I agree with what you're saying. Like all that makes sense. And thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
It makes sense.
It's a good, I want to tell you what, it's a good question. Because if everyone in the country is talking about it, and you're hearing it from one side or the other side, it's fair to ask a rabbi and say, just make your case.
Yeah. So one thing though, obviously, part of like the violence is the powers aren't equal. You know, the Israeli state has a lot more power than the Palestinian people, state, whatever we want to call it, right? And so you see like 36,000 killed, you know what I'm saying?
And if you're a good person, you automatically side with an underdog.
Yeah.
But you know what that means? That means when that underdog goes into it, is there anything an underdog can do that's just evil? Let's say an underdog is really the underdog. So he starts raping 3-year-olds in front of their parents. Is there a point where you'd say, listen, buddy, you are the underdog, but that's unethical? Hamas is the underdogs. I don't question that. They might even be right. If someone would say they're right, I could listen to them. But there's got to be a point where what you're doing is just wrong.
I think Hamas is wrong. But the fact that all these civilians are paying the price, you know, for what Hamas did on October 7th is also really difficult to sort of...
Right. The problem is that's warfare. In Japan, when they bombed us in Pearl Harbor, a lot of innocent people got killed. And in every other war that's ever happened, and the only people that are told this is wrong and you got to stop it are the Jews. The only people. No one else was ever told that if you come in and you keep threatening to kill us and we say, you know, we're going to bomb you back to the 1500s. No one was ever told not to do that.
But the people that are Hamas, but Palestinians, they need to stop them.
They need to stop.
They elected Hamas. You're right.
But you know why? But I heard that PLO, right, used to exist, and that somehow some operatives from either the Israeli government or the British or the United States supported Hamas, like sort of kicked PLO.
It's possible. You know, whenever someone's your enemy, you know, that's the U.S. has done that so many times. They made the Taliban, and there was reasons for that. You know, when Saddam Hussein's your enemy, and this guy's fighting Hussein, so then you support them. Then those guys turn out to be nuttier than the first ones.
At one point.
Blessings, brother.
I'm Rabbi Shoff. What's your name?
Oscar.
Oscar. God bless you, Oscar.
Yeah, I love you, brother.
It's really good to meet you guys.
All right, man.
I apologize for the scooter. I got a broken leg. So
I hope it feels better soon.
I appreciate that too. As a Christian, totally support everything. And you and I probably would not disagree on 99% of the things I heard you talk about. My question is, and you don't may know the answer to this, I'm just curious if you ever thought about it. But in America, in the Christian side of things, very pro-Israel, very pro-Jewish, and have their own state. We have a lot of the funding that Israel receives from the Christian.
That's right.
Christian
Some
nation,
of our
right?
dearest friends. God bless you.
Right. So because we have Jews in America who say they're Jews, but they're not practicing Jews. They don't seem to be too friendly with Christians, and I hear Christians in Israel aren't very friendly, aren't very treated very well by the Jews there. And when you have such a huge ally in the Christian West, why do you think, where's that disconnect happening?
It's a fabulous question. First of all, any Jew who doesn't appreciate that today's, Protestant Christian world in the United States is our dearest friend, and we're the only ones who share basic morality of the Ten Commandments anymore.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
is missing the boat. But I need you to understand at least 1,000 years of history. Now, I assume you're not a Catholic.
I was raised Catholic, but not.
So, listen, I think Catholicism has an enormous amount of truth in it, even though I'm not a Catholic because I'm a Jew. But the Catholic Church butchered Jews for more than 1,000 years and burnt them at the stake. And we know the names of all those people. I was named after people who were killed by religious Christians in the name of Christianity.
Right.
Or whether he was named after. I was named after one who was named. Do you follow? And there's been
a lot of Christians were murdered by Jews.
So not in the last 2,000 years. In other words, in about 2,000 years since the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, and the foundation of Christianity, there were bad actors. I don't believe it's what Christianity teaches. I don't believe that. No. I think these are people who are misbehaving. But Jews were really, I was telling someone before, as just an example, the word crusade. So to a Catholic, the word crusade is a noble. You imagine people dressed up as knights and going out. When we hear the Crusades, we know that in 1648, and we start going back to all the years, that was the Cossack Uprising, we go back to the Crusades in the 1200s, and we know which communities were wiped out. And we read about these things. We still have, it's not so much geared towards, we don't talk a lot about the fact that they were Christians. We talk about the Jews who suffered and would say the Shema and be willing to be killed as a Jew and never accept anything else. The concept of converting to Christianity is very difficult. In Israel, the majority of Christians who are present in Israel are not native. The Jews don't have such an issue. They actually really get along well with the Arab Christians. It's Christians who have come with a missionizing perspective that very much alienates the Jews, which I actually disagree with. When someone comes to me and says, I want to share with you the good news about Jesus, I say this man must love me, and he wants me to go to heaven, and he means well. I completely disagree, and I'll talk to him about it, but I'm not offended. But a lot of Jews are hurt by that, and I understand why. Christians were the greatest, the Muslims we lived in peace with for most of history. It's a new thing that the Muslims have become largely, you can't come into our country if you're Muslim, you can't if you're not Muslim, and so on. But with the Christians, we really had a lot of history, and I believe already Martin Luther wrote a lot of very heavily anti-Jewish things. So if somebody were to tell me that's part of the religion, they rejected Jesus, now God hates them, and all Jews, I could also respect that, but I would keep my distance. Does that make sense? And if somebody says that's not what we believe, we actually believe in love, and we believe in second chances, and we're not, so then if that's what we believe in, then that's not something that the Christian community has done any successful job communicating to us. My children have never heard that. They didn't grow up hating Christians. They don't know much about it. That's our perspective. It was a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. Wish you all the God, wish the best luck. Hope it worked out for you guys.
You too. Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
What do you say? Do you have a good question? I don't know if I know the answer, but
only question I have is what's up with the head?
Yeah, it's a good question. You think it's? I was always thinking maybe I can get a visor, and then staple it on, and then I got a whole hat. So there is an ancient Jewish custom from the times of the Talmud that you cover your head to remind yourself that God is above you, to fear God. And we have had a tradition to cover your head as a sign of respect. So in other religions, you go into a church, you take off your hat. That's respectful. Or the national anthem, you take off your hat. We put a hat on. So you see Jews with the big hats, the different hats. And the idea is that the philosopher has his head open, and there's nothing above my head. Whatever I can understand, that's what's true. But one of the basic teachings of an infinite God is that you don't always know everything. Sometimes you hurt yourself and it's for the best. You understand? Sometimes something goes wrong in life and it really was good for you. So having a cap on your head, it's like, listen, I know this much and God is above me. I don't want to forget that. So we are not supposed to go out of our house and walk without your head covered. You could wear a baseball cap, right? You can wear a fisherman cap, you can wear whatever you want. It doesn't have to be this. This is a traditional thing. So the question, why am I wearing this one, is question 2, right? Like, okay, you got to cover your head, so wear a Dodger cap, which I sometimes do if I'm going to a Dodger game. But the reason for this really is just because that's our style within our community. That's a proud way of identifying. I am so excited to be able to walk down the street and say who I am.
Fair enough.
What do you say?
All right, Mama.
It was good to meet you. Now you know what's up with the hats. Yeah, come join me.
I said, what do Orthodox Jews have as part of their teachings, like the Kabbalah?
That's a good question. Orthodox Judaism essentially believes that there really is a God, and that when he came to Mount Sinai and gave revealed himself to Moses and the people, which is what Jews and Christians and Muslims all believe right back then, that really happened. And the things he said that were written down in the Bible are authentic and legitimate, and that he explained what he meant at the time. So that if he says, you gotta keep kosher, that he really meant what he said. And if there's something really confusing in there, he explained to them, here's how you slaughter an animal to make it kosher and kill it the most painless way, and he taught them. And we therefore have several teachings that explain the Bible, and that's what Orthodox Jews believe. The main one is called the Talmud. The Talmud is what we study, which explains the Bible, and that was the traditional way back a few thousand years. Just as an example, in the Old Testament, you have the teachings of the Jewish people. In the New Testament, you have the Christian Bible. In the Christian Bible, which was happening a couple thousand years ago, right, when Jesus was alive, it describes Jesus observing the Sabbath and how he did so, and he wouldn't pick wheat from a field unless someone's life was in danger. All the things that are described there are in the Talmud. Okay. In other words, that's what Jews have been doing since the beginning of time. It was only a few hundred years ago when, in a meaningful way, Jews stopped with Orthodox Judaism and started with other conservative reform. So what we also have something called Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a mystical tradition that was kept very close to the West. So only a handful of people would study it at any given time. It wasn't very, very popular. It was kind of like for wise men. And nowadays, it's become more and more popular.
Do you guys believe in... because what's the name for God is what is
so the name for God is complicated. The way we pronounce it, Jehovah's Witnesses attempted to spell it out because it's spelled in the Bible with a YHVH.
Right.
The most ancient Jewish traditions are that until the Messiah comes, it's not appropriate to pronounce God's name, and we instead use the name Adonai, which means my master. So that's actually in the Talmud. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I'm Rabbi Shoff. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Henry.
Good to meet you, Henry.
All right, so obviously there's this war happening in Israel right now, and there's a lot of pain and suffering on both sides, and like a long history. What does Orthodox Judaism have to teach us about repairing those wounds and the possibility of like living peacefully with people who are so different from us and with whom we've shared like a painful history?
It's a very sophisticated question, and I appreciate how you phrased it. I do think there's two things to be said. I think the absolute goal has to be peace. However, I think it's very important to understand that in Ecclesiastes, King Solomon says, for everything there's a season and a time under the sun. There's a time for love and there's a time for hate. There's a time for war and there's a time for peace. It's been 2,000 years since the destruction of the temple, almost, in Jerusalem, when Jews have been kicked around the world, and it was open season on Jews. If you killed a Jew, that was okay. And that's been true all the way through right now. I don't know another place where people went into a kindergarten and wiped out people, and your average liberal college student would say, yeah, but they're aggressive. They're underdogs, so it's okay. They're raping mothers in front of their children and slaughtering the children and roasting them and making the mother eat them on video on a GoPro for the first time in Jewish history following October 7th. The first time in 2,000 years. They stood up and said, we're not just a defense force. If you continue to do this, there will be massive consequences. Like the United States did in Pearl Harbor and around the world, every sovereign country ever has done. They did. They spoke up. To me, it's the most glorious time in almost 2,000 years that finally a Jew had the guts to say no, just like every other human in the world. You cannot rape our women and you can't murder our children and dance in the streets. There will be hell to pay. We'll knock your country back to the 1500s, back to the Middle Ages. To me, that's noble and it's ethical, and I can see the other side of things. But I don't think anyone who fails to understand that sometimes a time for war is as ethical as a time for peace. That being said, the goal has to be this. If tomorrow Hamas and the Arabs would lay down their arms, no weapons, we just want to hug and kiss and make up, in my opinion, the Jewish people would do so in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your perspective very much.
It was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Have a good day.
I'm Rabbi Shoff. Nice to meet you.
Willie, nice to meet you.
Hey, Willie.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I have a question. My question is, why is everybody just blindly on the Palestinian side? And I feel like if you actually look deep into the topic, you'll see that the Jewish people have a good argument to the land.
It's a very sophisticated question. It's not a dumb question.
Yeah.
I wish there was a clear answer. I'll tell you one very interesting thing. In American values, the underdog is a champion. Which means if you're watching March Madness, you ever watching when you don't know either team? You turn on TV and one team's down by a few points at the end, you root for them. You root for the underdog. It's interesting to know. I used to live in Israel for a little bit. And the Middle Eastern culture is not so much that way. People don't really root for the underdog. They kind of root for the strong one.
Yeah.
That's a uniquely Judaic and Christian value.
Yeah.
In America, we root for the underdog. When Israel was the underdog and everyone was attacking Israel, everyone supported Israel. And I believe that there's just a natural, and it starts with a good value of support the underdog. But like anything in the world, values need the appropriate mixture. You can't just have only one value. So in other words, a person's value is only peace will allow people to get murdered. Well, you need a mixture. And I think that's supporting the underdog is important, but it cannot be your only value.
Totally.
And it's become the only value. Whoever is in charge is colonialist, is wicked, and anything they do, to the point that if you're the underdog, you can't do anything wrong. And now we just have to define Jews as colonialists.
Right.
So just make them hyper white or something.
Yeah.
And it used to be that Jews were considered mongrels.
That's right.
So when being like white and European was the thing, can't have Jews in our country club. They're mongrels. Now that it's good to rag on the white people, so now it's like Jews are hyper white. And throughout history, you can notice this kind of when landowner was the bad thing, Jews are the landowners.
But I don't understand how people can view the Jews as not the underdogs, because, I mean, historically, the Jewish people have been the underdogs everywhere that they've been. They've been persecuted everywhere that you've been. And now that they have control of a little tiny piece of land in the Middle East, they feel like they are the colonial power, which I don't agree with. I see Israel being under attack from many different sides. I see Hamas as a existential threat to Israel. I see Hezbollah as an existential threat to Israel. And I don't think people are taking that into account, and I don't think they're looking into that. I think the idea of free Palestine is a nice idea, but at what cost? And I do believe, I hope that everybody can live in peace, but I don't see a way right now where both parties can live in peace with just saying, okay, Israel, you can take control of the land and establish a democracy, which they've already established, a democratic state.
I guess what we learned, one thing we have to take away from this is that sometimes the most evidently clear things take a lot of sophistication to see.
Yeah.
They say the story about the fish.
Yeah.
There were the fish, they're swimming around. One says to the other one, how's the water today?
Yeah.
The other fish says, what the heck is water?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the most obvious things take, and there's a lot of emotions get involved. There's a lot of groupthink. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on your side, brother. Sorry, I probably didn't, not much of an argument for you or against you, but
it's very encouraging. It's good to talk to you, Willie.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
God bless you. Yeah, please sit down.
Okay, so are you an anti-Zionist?
I'm not anti-Zionist.
And how can you be an Orthodox?
How could someone be? There is such a thing as an observant Orthodox Jew who's an anti-Zionist.
Yes.
That's not my personal position. I'm not particularly political, I would say.
Oh, is that political?
I don't know. I don't know if you could say that. But I would say the following. Orthodox Judaism strongly believes in the values of the Torah,
Right.
as the only set of values necessary to live a Jewish life. The concept of there being a Jewish state is only consistent for the Orthodox Jew if that state is consistent with Jewish values. Just getting Jews together in a place where none of that is about this set of Jewish values would not necessarily be Jewish or not Jewish. Does it make sense? In other words, the Shabbat is Shabbat. That's in the Bible. The Jews living in the land of Israel, that's, and when the Messiah comes, right, we believe that at some point there'll be a sovereign Jewish nation.
But don't the Orthodox Jews not believe in a state of Israel?
So there is a question.
Because I know a little more than your average white boy, so.
When the state of Israel was founded, it was founded by a significant influence of people who were deciding this will not be a religiously run country. It will not necessarily reflect Jewish values, necessarily. And there were many who felt that this is not what we've been waiting for. This is not what we believe. If you were to have, there are those who felt this way. For that reason, you can have a person who says, listen, I believe in the Jewish people having a right to live, but I don't believe there's a particular value to Jewish people having a state unless that state is advancing the values of Judaism and Torah and mitzvahs. In other words, what makes you Jewish if you're not buying into the values of Judaism? Fundamentally, anti-Zionism comes to say...
Because Zionists are not really following Judaism.
Not necessarily. Right. That's why you could have somebody who would call themselves an anti-Zionist. What winds up happening, though, is this. You'll have a person who's an anti-Zionist, and he gets a group of 200 friends, and they're extremists, and they're wackos, and they're not mentally stable. And they get on the headlines. That's man bites dog gets a lot more headlines than dog bites man.
There's a lot more than 200, though.
Well,
That's the problem.
there's a group called Neturei Karta. Neturei Karta is an extremist group, and within that group, there are people that are considered nuts. That's the group.
I mean, they say that about MAGA, far right, extreme. There's extremes in everything. That's why there's a ton of Zionists. And we know that they've infiltrated every part of America. Now, the reason why I'm pro-Orthodox is because
Most
I know
of those people that you say have infiltrated, I would not say are Zionists. The fact that a person would say, I support Israel over the Palestinians, does not make a person Zionist, correct?
Yeah, I don't think.
So, in other words, a person who's a Jew, who identifies as a Jew, doesn't observe things in Judaism, doesn't live in Israel, doesn't give money to Israel, the word Zionist is used to mean Jew by people who hate Jews.
Well,
What Zionists?
They
Which
were Zionists.
Who,
They were,
Rockefeller?
the Rothschilds and all that. I mean, they were Zionists. They were the ones that wanted Zionists. They weren't the father. There was another guy, I forget his name. He was the father. But the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds definitely pushed the Zionist movement, 100%. And the reason why I support Orthodox Jews is because I literally see videos upon videos of them explaining what the difference between Orthodox Jews, Zionism is, and
What is your problem with Zionism itself? Is it that you believe Zionism to be people that want to control the whole world?
There's a lot of central bankings they control, yes.
Because the majority of people that I've ever met who are Zionists, who actually would say, I'm a Zionist, I'm a proud Zionist, people who say that, mean I believe that Jews have the same right to a homeland as a French person has to France.
I know what
That's what they mean.
I know what a normal guy, a normal person that says he's Zionist, in his mind, yes, it means to support Israel as a state. I get that.
And I support that Jews have the same right to self-determination as every other group in the world.
But you're going to find out here come January that there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes out that people don't know about Zionists and how they rule the country. But the reason why I'm with the Orthodox Jews is because I've literally heard thousands of videos where they are against Zionists being in Israel. They tell you right now that's not on their Torah. They're following the Talmud. They're following the Babylonian Talmud. They don't follow the Torah. So all these Orthodox Jews are always saying, no, we shouldn't have a state of Israel because that wasn't the plan. The plan was when the Messiah returns is when we can come back to Israel, right?
No, we don't believe that. Not quite. We're just guaranteed that when the Messiah comes, we will return. There's no source that says that you cannot live there before.
But the Orthodox Jews, that's what they've been saying.
There are some Orthodox Jews who say you shouldn't have a state beforehand.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority say that that's okay, but they don't necessarily support that state as the ideal, or as they support the state the way you might support a France or anything else. When you're living there, you could agree, you could disagree, you don't see anything messianic about it. That's a common thing among Orthodox Jews.
I'm not anti-Zionist.
I know, but you're not defining Zionism. If Zionism means a group of well-placed
Zionism means.
Masonic people who want to control the world, that's not Zionism. That's not in any of the things that nobody who's teaching Zionism, nobody's written a book on Zionism, nobody says that's what it is. Nobody believes that. So those 20 people who aren't even religious, don't believe in God, and just want to take over the world, if they exist, or those 1,000 people, they're not Zionists. They might be sometimes using Zionism when it's convenient. If you don't believe that there's a God who gave the Torah to the Jews at Sinai, you're not a real Zionist.
So why do they follow the Talmud?
We follow the Talmud. Orthodox Jews are the people of the Talmud.
Is it the same Talmud?
Yes, the Babylonian Talmud is what Orthodox Jews follow.
Okay, and there's no type of Luciferian stuff going on in that Talmud?
I don't know. I've studied. There's 2,711 pages. If you can name to me one Luciferian thing from the Talmud and tell me what page or what tractate.
I have never read the Talmud. I don't plan on it.
Of course, there's no.
That's why I'm
There
asking.
is nothing demonic in the Talmud at all. There are those who hate Jews. You know that part. For 2,000 years, they've killed them, and they've also taken their books and tried to pull things out of context and say this means this, and they support child rape, and they support this. It's not there.
Okay, so the question you get, I'm sure, every time, did the Jews kill Jesus?
The story that's told about Jesus in the Talmud, it says that there was a fellow named Yeshu.
Yeshua, yeah.
Yeshu, not Yeshua.
Jesus.
Yud Shin Vav. Yeshu. Yeshu, not Yeshua. And that he was put to death. And other sources do say Yeshua, but the Talmud says Yeshu. Right. And it says he was put to death for black magic and trying to convert the Jewish people to worship idols.
Got it.
That's what it says. Now, did Jesus do that?
I don't know. I wasn't
It may have
there.
been a common name at the time. The New Testament stories about Jesus may very well be a different person who lived 200 years later. Josephus, who lived at the time that Jesus lived, never mentions him once. He wasn't very famous in his lifetime. Many people were crucified. It's only when Paul had his revelation, or made it up, depending if you're a Christian or not, but it's only when Paul began teaching this that anybody started hearing about Jesus all over the world. It was a little tribe in Israel with a few disciples that no one knew about in his lifetime. So the stories of the Talmud, either they're about a different person. An Orthodox Jew might tell you they are about Jesus, but what Paul said Jesus said and did is 100 years later, and is Paul's invention. But an honest Christian who believes that what Paul's saying is true would have to say, then it's just a different person that's being recorded as doing a different set of crimes.
Well, that's
and was put to death by the Romans probably in the end. What do you mean God? When you say the word God, what do you mean?
Yeah, higher power. I don't even say God. I just say higher power. I'm very spiritual.
A higher power.
A higher power, yeah. Just somebody that
just a dude.
No, not a dude at all.
Morgan Freeman. Is it a girl, a boy?
It's a universe type thing. It has nothing to do with people. You know what I mean? Wow, what do you guys believe? Well, what is your God? A person?
That's an excellent question. So monotheism is about an infinite source. My God is infinite. He is everything. And he is the source of all truth and all reality. And everything exists inside of him, like he is reality. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm Rabbi Shoff. How you doing, buddy?
Rabbi Shoff, Frank.
You're Frank?
Yeah, Frank.
Wow.
Okay, well, what are you doing at Venice Beach? You feel me? Like, what's the occasion?
First of all, there's no need for an excuse to come to Venice Beach.
Okay.
People are drawn to the water. I meet nice people when I come. So that's the truth. But we're here because we think that a lot of people never get to talk to each other. If I wouldn't have put out this booth, I'd probably never talk to you or any one of your family in my life, right?
Yeah.
But it's nice that we can talk to each other and respect each other.
I get you, man. That's cool. So you tried the best tacos in the world over here yet, or what? Because supposedly they're right there. You're supposed
in the
to follow...
gingerbread court?
Yeah, in the gingerbread court, you're supposed to follow the, what is it called? The pink surfboard. The pink surfboard, and it's all the way in the back.
Wow, is that true? Are they really good?
I'm not trying it because it was expensive. What you mean, like $14 for 2 tacos? And then, yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, nah, man. Yeah.
So I only eat kosher food. Do you know what that is?
Kosher food, yeah. So you don't eat no pig, you don't eat no like shrimp because that's like the scum of the ocean or something like that.
We really just don't eat it because the Bible says that you shouldn't eat it.
Oh, okay.
We're not really sure why.
All right.
Right? God said that's not a good idea, so we're like, okay, he must know. And then he also said for tacos, I have a problem because I can only eat meat that's slaughtered in the way the Bible says us to do it.
Like
they have to like kill the animal in a very painless way, and there's a specific details. You have to get all the blood out, and so we can't just buy meat anywhere. We only go to kosher restaurants or buy kosher meat. So I cannot try the very best tacos in the world.
I feel okay. Now I have a question. My perspective, like your family, they're Jewish, or did you just choose to follow along this?
My family is Jewish.
Oh, okay. So you've always been into it, yeah.
But I also chose it.
Oh,
in other words, if I didn't want to be doing it, I would stop immediately.
Yeah, I feel.
And I would go get the first thing I would do is stop for tacos.
This guy, you think like, let me go get them tacos right quick. It was nice talking to you, man.
Thank you.
I give it to him, and
yeah.
Okay. We should have a good one, man. Yeah.
It was good to meet you.
Bro.
Hope you guys enjoyed our time together, having a few conversations. It's always refreshing to hear the different questions people have and to talk honestly with good people. Maybe that'll contribute something to the world.